episode of Two Costa Rica Real Talk, Two Costa Rica Real Estate podcast on all things real estate and Costa Rica. And today we're joined by Alvaro Ortiz, one of our leading agents currently deployed in Hacienda Pinilla. How are you doing today, Alvaro?
Yeah, happy to be here. High season is coming up, so very excited about upcoming business and sales with our project here at One Hacienda Pinilla.
Yeah, well, and besides being a real estate agent, perhaps most people know of Alvaro because of or due to his golf expertise. So perhaps, first of all, I want perhaps to do like a little introduction about your relationship to golf, like over time. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, I'm over 50 years old. In order not to say the exact number, I've been playing golf for at least 50 years, and it's been part of my life. I've been able to travel and represent Costa Rica in international competition at least 100 times. I've traveled and played representing Costa Rica in 30 different countries approximately, and have been fortunate enough to win a lot of championships. Some of my titles, if you can say it, include 30 Costa Rica amateur titles, 8 Central American titles, 2 Latin American titles, and then participated in 8 World Cups of golf, and in at least 60 Latin American championships. So golf has been part of my life. It's been a great cultural experience, a sport experience, as you can imagine. And now golf is a really good business tool.
And I want to ask you also about that. What sparked initially that relationship to golf, and also what kept you like going after perhaps like some moments where you thought about like had like this like highs and lows in the career of every like sports person.
Yeah, no, I was brought up by my father playing golf. My father and my older brother played golf, and being a little boy, we all started playing soccer. But then I took up golf. One day I went with my father and walked around with him on the golf course. I was about 5 years old. I didn't understand much of what was going on, but he gave me a try. And that try ended up being the start of a love relationship with the game. And now I'm still playing, competing. And like I said before, it's a great business tool, and it helps a lot in my real estate business, since a lot of the uh, clients that we look for are golfers and have a purchasing power that is accordingly to our project. In this case, here in Hacienda Pinilla.
How did you first identify that feature that you just mentioned, like the business potential of golfing? Did it came organically, or was it something that you kind of approached over time?
It was organic. I was in love with the game since I was a little boy, and as I grew older and started to travel and meet people, I found myself surrounded by high-end executives. I have met celebrities. I've met singers. I've met very wealthy people. In fact, as our boss knows, as Todd Cutter knows, one of my major assets are my connections, my human relations, and most of them that come up with golf or had a relationship directly with golf. So, like I said, it's awesome. It's a great tool that it started as a passion, but ended up being a super business tool that nowadays connects me with people that are businessmen or investors that are what we're looking for in our company.
And well, as someone as knowledgeable about the topic of golf as yourself, what can you tell us about like the historic relationship of like golf and like luxury? This idea of golf as a status, as also in a way.
Yeah, we've been able to understand that most gated communities in resort areas include golf. Uh, Most premium communities in many parts of the world and Costa Rica also include golf, and that's interesting. Not only because of the golfers like it, of course, but people that have homes collineant to golf courses or golf front find it interesting because they rent well. Why? Because golfers travel and rent homes on golf courses. So you don't have to be a golf fanatic to understand that having a home on a golf course is great, which is because, as we know, and like I mentioned, the golfer generally is a client and a type of person that has good purchasing power, and at the same time means that they rent well and they would pay high high stakes to be in front of a golf course on a vacation.
Yeah, and I also want to touch upon that because if you go into like the pop culture and you think about like any like office drama, there's always like the golf as kind of like a social space also like that's the place where like people are laid back but also they're like breaking out deals and as you mentioned like there's an important business side of it. How do you manage that balance between golfing as this leisurely activity but also having in mind or knowing what to hear, knowing how to intercede? How does that process come to you?
Okay, basic. It all starts from having that bonding. There's a great camaraderie or bonding amongst golfers, and that helps a lot because that builds trust, that builds confidence, and these two issues end up generating uh, opportunities for business. Okay, I have met people along my career playing golf, and by the time you're finished a round of golf and you've met the person, 5 hours later you feel like you're best friends, and that bonding that is created amongst golfers is very strong. So at the end of the day, you end up knowing the person really closely. In 5 hours of constant communication, you pretty much know the life of a person, and that builds trust. Like I said, and also the atmosphere, the environment on a golf course is a lot more open, like you say, and it allows people to communicate better and to let things go out in a more clear way, which in a room surrounded by four walls and air conditioning in a very tight atmosphere is very different. Okay, it helps a lot. The environment itself helps a lot to develop that relationship that allows you to create business.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you think about other sports, perhaps there's like the high intensity part of it, like the you're constantly running or moving. There isn't really like that more like a reflexive or like contemplative even side of golfing, which I guess nobody probably like speaks while they're like measuring their shot, but like in those spaces between like greens, there's like as you mentioned all this like conversation that happens. Uh, what do you think that golf specifically has become like this thing like very like featured in these kind of environments? Like why do you think like high net worth individuals always gravitate towards golf instead of perhaps other sports? Like there's always like tennis and stuff like that, but I don't usually see that as the same kind of like activity as golf.
Yeah, it's a very challenging discipline, and it's interesting that many former presidents, politicians, wealthy, high end businessmen, and celebrities and so forth, like I mentioned earlier, play golf. It's an awesome game. It's not only because I play it, but you see how avid and how excited towards the game are great personalities of the world. Michael Jordan, a bunch of other former athletes in baseball, in basketball, and so forth play golf. Football, former football players, actors, actresses, and so forth. It's a great type of game that allows for the communication to be constant. Because, for example, right now, I'm on the golf cart, and in the golf cart, two people fit, and you're riding for 5 hours with that person right next to you. You hit a shot, you get back in the cart, and you keep on talking. And additional to those 5 hours of golf, you still got the couple of beers that you drink after you play. So that ends up being at least 6 hours of constant communication. If you're a tennis player, one person is one end, the other person is at the other end. You barely communicate. You just yell out the score. By the time you're done, you have a drink, your Gatorade, you're tired, and you go home. Uh, some other sports don't have that personal interaction like golf does, and this game allows it. And that's why it's such a sociable game, because most other sports are contact sports, are sports of reaction, to where the communication with your opposing player or whoever you're playing against is not the same. Like I said, in 6 hours of constant communication, you get to understand and to know somebody really closely.
I want to ask you also, like, from your experience over the years, you've probably seen like the relationship of like, or the growth of golf in relationship also to like luxury real estate in Costa Rica, because as we've talked sometimes, never in the podcast, but about like how for many years, like perhaps like Valle del Sol was considered to be like the sole option for many like high end golfers. but over time, and Cariari also, but over time that has changed. Tell me a little bit about that initial advent and growth of like golfing in Costa Rica, perhaps in what how it was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah, golf in Costa Rica many years ago when it started to develop, it ended up being the game of the high social class, where it was a country club only. And let's get to the point. The Costa Rica Country Club has been there for at least 80 years, and that was a country club. When they bought the farm, uh, the real estate was not an option. It was just a country club, and they didn't buy more land to think about that because that was 80 years ago. People thought different. Nowadays, people think about the community, about the country club, and the real estate. And now, most golf courses, I'm not going to say all, but most have a residential combination or a residential concept surrounding it. And especially nowadays that everybody wants to live close to where their people, their children hang out, close to where their friends are at, close to where their families are at. And gated communities with golf course are a trend, not only in Costa Rica, considering Parque Valle del Sol, which is probably the premium golf community in San Jose. But as we go to the beach, we've understood the success that Marriott Los Sueños has had, Reserva Conchal, Hacienda Pinilla, uh, the Four Seasons Hotel with its gated private community. And nowadays, Zapotal Beach, where Discovery Group is developing an awesome uh, residential community where it's only golf and only homes. It's not much of a resort because there's no hotel, and they don't need to have a hotel. They're paying high stakes in order to have your own golf course and your own community for homeowners.
Yeah, I wanted to touch upon that transition from like the usually thought of like only like the high end Central Valley like a socialite, and then how that was exported towards like these incredible developments in, as you mentioned, Los Sueños, Conchal, Pinilla. For also like thinking about it beyond like only the real estate aspect for golfers, how is also that change of scenery, like not coming to Costa Rica and knowing like, okay, I will be like a couple days in San Jose in order to golf, and then I'll be on the beach. Now they have the option to even experience like different like golfing ambiances, if you will.
Yeah, like I said before, the trend of living in front of a golf course is a semi-modern trend. At least in Latin America, that probably developed in the last 40 years, because, like I said before, most golf courses were located in country clubs without a residential concept attached to it. But this concept has grown and has changed, and it's trending nowadays. I would say most or most all golf courses nowadays have a residential concept with it. Very difficult to see a new golf course up and coming without this combination. And now it's probably the only way it works because, uh, like I said before, golfers have very high purchasing power in general terms, and their dream is to live in front of a golf course, and they pay high stakes to have a golf course in the backyard.
Yeah, well, that's also the case with like sub communities in Pinilla, for example, Reserva Golf, that's conceived around the idea of like the golf course. I also wanted to ask you about how does the Costa Rican ethos, this idea of like lush greenery, like the being in touch with the environment, how does that come into the equation when it comes to the development of these like distinctive golf courses? Perhaps like a new development, luxury development comes along the way, and they want to make sure that they don't not only have the amenity of a golf course, but also having a golf course that kind of offers like a unique experience.
Exactly. That's a good example, and that's what happens in Hacienda Pinilla. Uh, the other day I played golf here, and I ran into howler monkeys, I ran into iguanas, I ran into a snake, I ran into deer at the end of the afternoon. There are foxes, and there's a crocodile. So it's a zoo in itself. If you get lucky playing golf in the Guanacaste area, uh, and most of the time, developers are trying to keep that ecological concept surrounding the golf course because it's part of the experience for tourists and mainly Americans that come to Costa Rica and have only seen those things on TV, but not on the golf course.
Yeah, because there's like looking and writing about like the different golf courses, they're like award-winning, like Robert Young award-winning golf courses. They're like very much so like conceived around bringing like the top tier option for like any golfer around, right?
Yeah, and that's part of the experience. That's why that's part of what people pay for, having that ecological experience. And also we ran into some toucans the other day. Most people, even us from Costa Rica, it's hard for us to see toucans around, and it's really an awesome experience. And I'm sure that many of the other golf courses that are coming along have all kinds of flora and fauna in their environment.
And going back to like the real estate aspect of it, uh, how do you usually, in your experience, does the how do you usually describe like the golfing experience as part of like the sale process?
Yeah, in real estate, there's always a premium, so it's a different pricing strategy. The same way, if you're close to the beach or not close to the beach, the pricing strategy changes. And golf courses have a premium because they give values to real estate.
That's true. Also, well, also thinking about like the investment potential, I guess that also comes into the equation when someone's thinking about like the uh, growth of value of the property or the kind of amenities they have. Usually, I guess like a golf course is one of those like top tier amenities that can bring up value in properties.
Exactly. Nowadays, like I said, uh, proximity to amenities add value or take value off real estate. Example being in Pinilla, with the project that we have, the premium that we sell is walking distance to the beach, walking distance to your beach club, and walking distance to restaurants. That in a community like Hacienda Pinilla, being so large and so big, that is not easy to find.
And also, usually you're known here, or at least like in the group chats, as like the referral king. What makes like the referrals specifically an integral part of your golfing like expertise?
Yeah, we go back to what I think is a very important asset that I have, that are connections. Connections are very important, but not only that, it's very important how to handle them. Because I know a lot of people that are very well connected, but they don't get the phone answered, and people don't call them. But it's a combination of being well connected, being connected with decision makers, and making good use of it. I am in case I'm very well connected, and I know a lot of very influential people, but I am very prudent in the way I handle those communications and those contacts, and that helps a lot. And that is why I get a lot of phone calls from friends and family looking for properties in Los Sueños, looking for properties in Santa Teresa, Manuel Antonio, Guanacaste in this case, that trust me. I've been able to generate that trust through my personality, through my work, and through my moral values. That has created people to say, hey, Alvaro can help me. I know who he is. I know him as a person, and I know him as a business person. So that generates trust, and that's why I'm able to generate leads for our agents in the rest of the offices that we have.
And also, that's also like a very important aspect of it because perhaps people, when they hear about the relationship of like golf at this social space with real estate, they think like, oh, you just like sell properties throughout the conversation, but it goes deeper than that. As you mentioned, you have like this whole community that perhaps you don't have like the property that they need, but you know someone that has, and also like this web of contacts, as you mentioned, not only within like the golfing space, but also like connecting different kinds of people through golf, right?
Exactly, and that happens. Interestingly enough, when I have meetings and when people contact me regarding real estate, they say, "Hey, you're Alvaro Ortiz, or you're the golfer." Yes, I'm the golfer. I didn't know you were in real estate. Well, so little by little through the years, Todd and I have worked on it because I'm starting to get, fortunately, more known than as a realtor than as a golfer. But if I combine both, they both help.
And perhaps to round up the podcast, I wanted to ask you perhaps if you could share with us like a little anecdote of one of your real estate anecdotes through golf. One that's viable for the podcast.
That's an interesting one. One of the referrals that I made to Los Sueños happened with somebody that I played golf with in San Jose. I told him that I was in a real estate in business. I played a really good round of golf, and at the end of the day, he said, "You know what? You're a good golfer. You must be good at whatever else you do. So let me talk to whoever you can assign me to in Los Sueños, because I like to get into the real estate and buy something. And one thing led to another. I wasn't even thinking about that. That a good golf game on my behalf and a good score would generate business. But that's an interesting story. Having a good round of golf with somebody, he was impressed, and he ended up, like I said, yeah, you're a good golfer. You must be a good at whatever you do. So he ended up buying some property from our colleague Steve Hooven.
And that's a great lesson, I guess, like for all agents. Like, if you have like a passion that's not really related to real estate, it also perhaps as like the real estate agent in nowadays, they're not just like salespeople. They are like as you are like a well-rounded person with their own interests, their own passions, and that in the process of like a real estate sale that's like as personal and as emotional. I think all those things came into fruition at the end, right?
Yeah, yeah, ma'am. I think good salespeople are not only ones that make a good presentation of a property, but the way they handle themselves and the way they approach clients, not necessarily that are interested, but end up being clients out of nothing.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Alvaro, for your time. Any final words or closing words you have?
No, thanks for your time, and glad to share experiences, not only in golf but in real estate, and living a good life here in Hacienda Pinilla with our awesome project, One Hacienda Pinilla, whom I invite everybody to join and to check on the website.
Yeah, definitely. All the information is right up on our website and also like the One Stand Up Ninja website. And we can definitely see from your backdrop that you're having a great time over there. So it's great having you here on the podcast again, Alvaro.
Thank you very much, and glad to talk to you, Alonso.
Yep, and if anyone enjoyed the conversation, you can follow us on social media at To Costa Rica Real Talk and see all our backlog of podcasts at To Costa Rica Real Talk.